What's going on, people? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV. We're back in the studio. It's the day after Chelsea beat Copenhagen 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. Make sure you run up the likes. Make sure you subscribe if you're new around here. I'm hosting today, replacing Alex. Can't make it. Joined by Dan in the studio, making his debut. Lewis, good to have you back as well, bro. Yeah, I'll tell you what, lads. Did you have a good snooze last night between sort of 8:45 p.m. or maybe even for a nice hour and a half, little pre-bed nap?
Yeah, before Fabrizio decided to wake us up.
Yeah, I mean there weren't exactly an awful lot to talk about game-wise yesterday. I think we can all agree that we're dead glad that we don't have to see Chelsea against Copenhagen again anytime soon. We will chat about the game, but more pressing matters can only be Chelsea. Random Friday afternoon, random Friday in March. Wake up this morning, check the Twitter, 4 a.m. Here we go for Giovani Quenda, 17-year-old Sporting Lisbon winger. It's going to be 45, 50 million euros, 7-year deal, the usual stuff that we do. Coming in 2026. Dan, I'll come to you first, bro. What are you saying about that? It's another kid. This guy is obviously more experienced, and as experienced as a 17-year-old can be, I suppose. He's made 43 appearances for Sporting Lisbon already this season, 10 in the Champions League. What are you saying about that one?
I mean, I've seen a little bit of him in the Champions League. He looks exciting, looks promising. I still think the squad needs experience. I'd much rather have woken up at 4 a.m. to news that we'd agreed a deal for someone experienced coming in and bolster that sort of defensive line, probably. But look, I'll take it. End of the day, it's another opportunistic signing. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, it's one of them where, there was no real links to it. It was United thought they were getting him. Amorim was going to maybe link back up with him, and we've kind of just gone in. And it's mad how we sometimes do these secret deals just out of nowhere. We had Renato Vega last summer, which just appeared from nowhere, and then this one's
that
appeared.
random Neto bomb.
Yeah, as well. The random.
I kind of like it, I'd much rather it go under the radar and then out of nowhere, like, we get a surprise.
But this is it. Like, normally you every little step of the way, or he's in the car doing X, Y, Z or whatever. But sometimes it's quite nice just to have a random one that just appears from nowhere. And it's sort of, sometimes I sort of think, I wonder how many other deals we're working on in secret. But then, the chances of us getting a mass. I'm not saying this is not a big deal, but the chances of us, getting a top striker signing just appear out of nowhere is probably pretty slim. But I mean, Lewis, we were chatting before we started recording. Obviously we had the protest a few weeks back. People not happy with the model. But they've since then made 2 signings of 16, 17-year-olds. Just goes to show that they're kind of doubling down, and fans don't really, as much as people like to think, fans have got a say in that in transfer policy and stuff, these guys are going to sign who they want, and they're going to recruit how they want.
Like, I don't know how to feel about this one, because, yeah, he's talented, yeah, he has a bit of experience and all of that, but I just think, fuck me, another 17-year-olds and all that. But at least he's going to be here in, I think, a year or two.
Yeah, he's spending next season on loan at Sporting.
And for me, I guess, as long as we're not paying for it until then, and the finances that we have are for this summer, and on strengthening the team right now, whatever. But seriously, if we're spending another 40 million on someone we're not going to see till 2026, and someone who isn't experienced enough, when we already know the areas of the squad that need to be filled, it's a load of bullshit. But if we're paying it in 2026, whatever, fine. Because he looks a little bit good. From like the 8 minutes I've watched of him on YouTube, he looks like a good talent, like good dribbler, some decent passing in him, but just don't care. I'll be so real. Because he's not going to impact us now, and like we know we need players in for now, innit? So, whatever.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, like, you look at, obviously, we've got Esteval, we've got Paez, Quenda, another one, from like just doing a little bit of limited research this morning. Like, he is regarded as sort of, a top 3, top 5 talent sort of in the world at that under 18 age. And, with Esteval, with Paez, and now with Quenda, we've kind of secured 3 of the, top 3, top 5 talents in the world in that kind of age group, which is great, because it's the sort of stuff that these players potentially could be 70, 80, 90, 100 million pound players in a few years' time. So it's nice to see us doing that. And I can kind of get more on board with these signings, these kind of kids that we're signing, because at least this guy's actually played first team football, played Champions League football. It's them random kids in Brazil that are paid like no football. Yeah. I mean, he's dropping 15, 20 million on them, and full well they're never going to kick a ball for us.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. They're players that we sort of bring in and look to make profit on them instantly. They're the sort of signings I can't get behind because that money never affects me and my life. Whereas if we bring in a player that's good and he's got experience and he's young and he's promising, he's exciting, we get to watch him, we get entertained by him. He might be there to help win us trophies, and I can get behind those. So yeah, I think I agree with you. These kids that are coming in, Esteval, Paez, this guy Quenda, they're exciting, they're promising. The only thing is, I agree with Lewis, is like the importance is that we get these guys signed who are experienced into the team sooner rather than later. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. And in 2026, we're going to have a bunch of 18-year-olds playing, 20-year-olds playing for us, and we'll be in the same situation as what we are now.
Yeah, I mean, I think with this signing, right, in isolation, it's good. But if it's this, and then in the summer, we don't then go and address what needs to be addressed, then you can look at this signing and think, well, we spent, 40-odd million quid on this guy, but then in the summer, we didn't go and address what we needed to address. So, like, we can be happy about it, we can be sort of pleased with it now, but I think people might look at it differently if we're in a situation where come the summer we don't do what we need to do, and you just see, well, we spent 40 million on a 17-year-old, we spent 20 million on another random one, and there doesn't really seem to be much of a plan. I don't know if this is a necessary signing, because it makes it quite interesting now in terms of the wide areas, because, you know, you've got Mudryk. I know he's obviously not playing, he's out of the picture right now, but he's still contracted to the club. You've got Sancho, Neto, Tyreek George, Esteval, Quenda, Madueke. That's like kind of 7 players now. I mean, Lewis, there's some decisions to be made now, isn't there, in the wide areas? Because Esteval is going to be coming into that first team squad competing next season. You'd imagine that Quenda will go straight in as well. You can't see him being loaned out to Strasbourg or anything like that. He's already playing at Sporting. What do you see happening in those wide areas? Because probably 1 or 2 of those guys, certainly maybe this summer or next summer, in the next couple of windows, they need to go.
Oh, on front, I could see Quenda going Strasbourg. I could see
It's
that.
worse than Sporting, though.
The what?
Yeah, but it's a step down from Sporting.
No, but I mean, like, you talk about, like, the players that we have in those wide areas. Unless we end up selling the likes of Noni, I could see us sending him to Strasbourg for another year. Just one of them. Like, Kendry Paez is already going to go next season. Could end up maybe being Quenda the year afterwards. But, yeah, if any one of them has to go, I would probably expect it to be Noni. Just because, like, I've kind of thought it was on borrowed time anyway with Paez and with Esteval coming into the squad anyway. So, yeah, probably be him that leaves.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, Dan, how do you see it? Because we've spent a lot of money on wide players. We've now committed about 80-odd million quid, maybe a bit more potentially on on Esteval and Quenda. Almost 100 million if you include Paez. The likes of Noni, Mudryk, Tyreek George. You'd probably say you're looking at those 3 as ones that maybe in the next couple of years probably aren't going to be at Chelsea.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think most of these players are going to be moved on. There'll be opportunities for profit, no doubt about it. And I think players like Madueke have already raised question marks with the manager. If Maresca's still in charge, he's already fallen out with Madueke over training 3 times. So he's going to be sort of pushing for a player like that to go, bringing someone hungry and younger like Esteval, Paez as well, like Lewis says, is going to go and do a season on loan probably and then come back. If Strasbourg in that time, though, they could progress enough to potentially be a European outfit so that in 2 years' time, the loan deals potentially could be a little bit, hold a bit more weight to them so that players might actually feel like it's an okay move to take. But yeah, I kind of think, if Quenda knows that Strasbourg's the plan, I'm not sure he would have signed if he probably thought he could walk into Ruben Amorim's United side. Because he's played a bit at wing-back and a bit at...
Yeah.
So I don't... Also, by the way, systematically, I'm not sure where he's going to fit in if Maresca's the manager, because there's an inverted left-back role at the moment that's being deployed, and I don't see...
He'd be a touchline winger.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Because under Amorim...
So you think we change the balance of it? Because he doesn't play as one of the 10s under Amorim, does he?
No, because when he was playing with Amorim at Sporting, he was playing as a wing-back in that system.
But we have our wingers hug the touchline,
yeah, exactly.
So that'd be his role.
Yeah. But then but then in the new gaffer at Sporting has played him higher up the pitch.
Right,
so
okay.
I think the Ornstein article this morning was saying that Chelsea's plan on using him as a pure winger. He can play left, he can play right. He will hug the touchline and give you that natural whip. So I think that is the plan for him. Of course, you know, it's so difficult.
Because again, that Maresca's in our long-term plans too.
Yeah, I would say so, because like the way that it's been reported, you know, he said yes to Maresca, said yes to the Chelsea project and that. I mean, are you guys surprised that youngsters are still signing for Chelsea. I know that might sound a bit weird because it is a big football club. We have got, we do have prestige, we do have history, despite what some people try and say. But given how many younger players have come, given how many have been sort of signed a 7-year deal and then left 12 months later, you don't really know where you're going to be unless you're one of the established guys. Are you surprised that youngsters are still signing?
Nah, not even, because like we got a clear youth project. I'll say that. It's just there might be a bit more questions in terms of like, are you going to make it at Chelsea or are we going to send you to another club? But the idea still stands that like we'll still help them with their development and find them a long-term club if they don't end up being successful for us, which is still a good succession plan for these younger players. So I'm not really too surprised by it. Like, it is each their own. We'll be rejected by a few of them. Like Due rejected us last summer, for example. But I'm not that surprised because I on the young players, so it makes sense that some would still be interested.
Yeah, no, I hear that. We'll have to wait till 2026 to see him. I mean, I'm sure people are going to be doing a lot more research.
Don't we have to
on him now? Yeah, we still got a little bit of time to wait on that one. But look, he was called up to the Portugal squad for the Nations League recently, but I mean, didn't make his debut. Maybe he might make his debut over the next international break potentially. So look, he's clearly got talent. He's clearly got ability. So we just have to hope for the best and kind of see what happens with him. But my only concern would be is that, like, I mean, we chatted about this on the stream the other day, Lewis, like in terms of when was the last time Chelsea signed a talented youngster and then developed them into a top class player? That hasn't come through the academy. When did we last sign a talented youngster and then develop them into a player? Because I look at it and we have to be honest, Chelsea is not the best environment for taking potential and then like blooding them into top class players.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some names. Can anyone think of
It's
any?
probably Jackson and Palmer.
Yeah, I wondered Palmer. Does Palmer count, or are we going younger than that?
No,
because even then, it's like that Palmer was just showing that ability from the start.
Yeah, because he was on the fringes at City, to be fair. But do you know what I mean, though, in terms of, like, I'm not saying, like, 16, 17-year-olds, you don't really sign many of them, but do you know what I mean? Sort of maybe, like, under 20 age. I mean, we haven't really signed that many.
Do you know what? I'd say Gusto. I feel like Gusto's probably someone who didn't get enough of a chance at Lyon in the position that he's playing, and he worked his way back, didn't he? Although he didn't come through our academy, we signed him, given him opportunities. I don't think Gusto was anywhere near the level. So I probably think Gusto, at his age, is potentially one of those players.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's a concern, our sort of track record as such of not really being the best environment for youngsters? I mean, would you say that Chelsea's a good place for a youngster to come and develop their career?
I mean, yes, actually, to be fair, I think so. Like, long term, I think it's a good spot for them. It's just depends on the trajectory of their career. Regardless of whether it's at Chelsea or at another club, like, I don't think Chelsea, like, ruins careers like that. We just stockpile. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, that's probably the one thing I would say when I look at these youngsters and sort of think, well, it's obvious that not that many of them are making it. Because you simply can't. When you put in like three...
Here, at least.
Yeah, here. Like, you look at if you're stockpiling 3 or 4 players of a similar age in the same positions, you know straight away, 1, if you're lucky, 2 will make it, and the other 2 just won't make it, and they'll be sold on. But if that's the model, and like these players kind of are aware of that when they sign, then maybe it's not an issue.
Do you think the directors are aware of that? Do you think they know, or do you think it's all part of the gamble, like scattergun approach, and then like one pays off, the others get moved on or sold, and we just kind of...
I think it's part of the plan.
Do you think they're aware that only one makes it, or do you think they think that all of them will progress to a level that...
I think they'd be stupid to think that all of them are going to make it. I think
It'd be probabilities, I think.
Yeah. They love data. They'll have their spreadsheets and shit looking at like percentage chance of how many players are going to make. I'm sure there's some numbers that they can run to sort of work that out. But it very much feels like sort of chuck enough shit at the wall and a few things will stick. Every maybe 5-6 players you sign, you might get a Cole Palmer, for example.
Yeah, that pays off all the others.
Yeah, exactly. Because you look at the amount of signings we've made, and a lot of them have not been good enough, and a lot of them haven't worked out. But then you sign a Palmer, you sign a Gusto, for example, and you sort of think, well, maybe those ones, the thought process might be, well, maybe those ones cancel out the crap ones that we've had. But I don't know, we'll have to see. But moving away from obviously the Quenda signing, we did have a game last night. It was very boring, as we touched on at the top of the show. We will spend a little bit of time going through it. 1-0 against Copenhagen, through 3-1 in aggregate, quarterfinals of the Conference League. Lewis, it was. I think we can say that we're glad to see the back of Copenhagen, because them 2 games were probably 2 of the most boring games of football we've had to endure for quite a while.
That might be like the worst tie that I've ever sat through as a Chelsea fan. Like that second leg, I was saying it on my stream. It just felt like we went out and just said, we're going through unless we do anything stupid. Just don't do anything dumb. Don't get injured. Don't waste a lot of energy. We got a big game on Sunday. We got to focus on, lads. And yeah, you could tell in the way that we played. It was just sloppiness left, right, and centre. Barely any movement. Barely any urgency. Like nobody was like really like trying to put their full effort into anything. And that was it. That first half just flew by. Like Dewsbury Hall randomly just turns into Hazard at one point, and that's your game. That's it. Like shout out Achimpong, shout out George. I don't know why Achimpong got brought off at halftime either. Like he was like one of the only bright sparks in that game. And yeah, that's it. Like there was no like real like intent to like do anything except like maybe just get a goal and leave it there. Like we bring in Cole Palmer, Cucurella just to see the game out, and Palmer's just doing nothing but spamming shoot, just trying to break his goal scoring drought to a point where he's ignoring runners left and right around him in better positions. Like it was a nothing game.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely nothing game. I low-key feel bad for anyone who paid for that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best, and I suppose, are there any positives to take from that? I mean, obviously we're through, which is a positive, and it's over. But like, can we take any positives from that game at all?
Yeah, the fact that we're through. We've navigated, I think, a tougher team in Copenhagen than Leicester and Southampton. I think potentially we can learn something off that. I think there are probably more negatives off the back of that than there are positives, to be honest with you. Even though it's a win, I feel like the fact that we weren't brave and didn't try to play that team at home, off the park, take an advantage, take some more confidence into the Arsenal game, I think that's a missed move by Maresca and the players, to be honest with you, because going into Arsenal with more confidence than a pretty boring, lacklustre 1-0 win probably would have done us a favour. I wish Palmer had scored. I agree with Lewis. He was so wasteful last night. He's trying to pull off shots that I don't think he normally would. He's probably a touch or two later than what he was 3-4 months ago in terms of when he gets his shot off. I think there was a moment where I think that kid Genesis was like wide open on his right and he wouldn't even look at him. I felt like he was really selective with his passing. There's an issue with Cole Palmer at the moment.
Do you think he's trying too hard?
Yeah, 100%. I think this is the inexperience that these young guys have, because you know when some of the older players that we've had previously have gone through patches of form that have been bad, they've known that it's not their moment, it's not their time. Let someone else who's good enough on the pitch carry the team through, and then their moment will come and they'll get out the bad patch of form. Cole Palmer doesn't know that yet, because I don't think he's got the experience to know when to release, when to try not to break his duck, and just allow the football to be the football, and that will come to an end soon.
I will say though, like, as boring as it was, I'm glad the game went the way that it did. Yeah. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want any other result, would you?
No, I mean like in terms of, I didn't want anyone getting injured. I didn't want anyone putting too much energy into it. All I wanted was at least an early goal. Then all that's like slow shit and just like the lack of urgency, don't care. Because at least you got the early goal, the tie's done. It's a little bit nervy until Dewsbury Hall scores, but that's literally all I want. I wanted one goal in the most boring football imaginable just to keep everybody fit.
Like a training game.
Yeah, literally a training match.
Because me and Charlie were saying the other day, our squad is so thin at the moment with all the injuries and that, we almost need to be able to replace players after like 45 minutes because otherwise we are pushing it. Like Neto got so many more minutes than I thought he'd get last
70,
night.
80 minutes.
Caicedo got 80.
People calling me pessimistic, but are you guys concerned about Neto with his injury history? Or do you think he's going to make it to the end of the season clean?
I think he's done pretty well.
He has. We've managed him well. I don't disagree.
He's done it right. I mean, I'll be honest. I was surprised at how strong we went last night. I mean, but ultimately, because of the injuries we've got, and because all the players that left in January were Conference League, would have played in the Conference League. There are actually very few choices for any rotation.
Maybe you had to go that strong to be able to go that lackluster in game and get away with it.
Yeah, potentially.
Maybe that's the logic behind it.
Maybe, but again, look, we got the job done. That's the most important thing. No injuries. We're through. We're in the next round. See, Dewsbury Hall gets the goal. I see people calling him Kiernan Dewsbury Hazard online.
My chat was going, Ankara Dewsbury Hall. And all that. So, okay.
I mean, in fairness to him, it was pretty good. I mean, I don't know where he got that from, but
Especially seeing he's our worst player before
Yeah.
that point. By
yeah,
a distance.
Yeah, some of them passes first half were diabolical, weren't
The
they?
touches,
Yeah.
everything.
I thought he'd lost it. You know, when he ran into the crowd where he then won the tackle that put him through on goal? I was just expecting him to lose the ball there. Like, normally just runs into a crowd, loses the ball, but fair play to him.
It was accidental genius.
I mean,
That's what it was.
he done quite well, and then he obviously made his own luck when it ricocheted back to him, and then it's an all right finish in fairness to him. So yeah, no, fair play. I mean, I don't see him. That doesn't really make any difference to his Chelsea future long term. I wouldn't have thought.
No, it's a good moment for him. I think he won man of the match as well, which says everything about that game.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing I wanted to touch on quickly, we had a singing section in the shed, 120 fans, season ticket holders in the shed upper.
Baptism of fire having that game.
Yeah, look, I think...
So are you really going to sing? Let's find out, man.
Yeah.
Are you going to sing if we're playing at 20%?
You could certainly see that they were singing. I mean, obviously, because the Copenhagen fans were so loud and were so good and were making so much noise, I think it kind of got drowned out. But I mean, what do you think of the idea? Because the atmosphere has been an issue at Stamford Bridge for quite a while. I mean, last night particularly, I mean, Matthew Arden I thought wasn't too bad. The shed I think was all right as well. But when you look at all the empty seats, it's in all the hospitality and all the corporate. And so really, you got two stands that are making noise, and that's the reason why. A lot of the reason why the atmosphere is so poor. But what do we think of that idea about the singing section in the shed? I mean, something's got to be done to try and improve things, hasn't it?
I rate it. I don't mind the idea of it at all. I think the idea is good. We need to go forwards with it. I think, like Lewis said, baptism of fire. It's a tough night to get up for anyway. Then they're next to 3,000 Copenhagen fans. I don't know how many, 2,000 maybe. Yeah. Non-stop jumping all game, loud as anything. Like, it kind of looked a bit silly. Like, you can see all these guys singing and trying for Chelsea, like in that section in the shed, but you just couldn't hear anything because they were literally being sounded out. So I think keep going with the idea, maybe move them to the other side of the shed or replace that into the Matthew Harding somewhere, because I feel like the Matthew Harding's got that whole end, and I feel like if there's some people generating noise to that extent all game, the others will join in. You might end up with almost like a bank or a wall of noise like it used to be maybe like 5-10 years ago. So I think go forward with it, but I feel like that's the wrong area for it in the shed because that's not even always guaranteed seats. The only reason they probably tried that was because Copenhagen didn't sell out their full amount of
I think
tickets.
it was season ticket holders up there. But yeah, I mean, Lewis, do you think it's obviously something's got to be done to try and improve the atmosphere? I mean, you on board with that idea? Obviously, it does need to go further, but you think it's a good thing?
Yeah, like I usually criticize We Are the Shed, but I actually rate this decision. I think it was a really good move, and it's actually a good incentive to try and get some atmosphere going. Like Matthew Harding, I hear it; it should be there. Even either stand for me, because I guess at least with the Shed, if you have them there, they can try and cancel out the away fans next to it. But Matthew Harding as well, I hear it. That's an entire stand that you can try and get up, and then you've got an entire wall of noise.
And we always play to it second half as well, don't we? So I feel like that's where that noise should be generated from. But
I suppose maybe in the future, you want to have it in both ends.
That would be unreal if we could.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to, didn't we? I feel like everyone I speak to says about how good Stamford Bridge's atmosphere used to be, but I don't know. I feel like post-COVID, there's been a bit of a fall-off in atmosphere.
There absolutely has been, but I think you're looking at that across the board. I mean,
I'd say post-Roman actually.
Yeah,
we've
all been to away grounds and that, and generally speaking, most grounds. I mean, maybe the exception of one or two, maybe Newcastle, Leeds, definitely to a degree. That the away fans are generally better than the home support. So it is
my thing. I think even our away crowd's taking a dip.
Maybe a little bit, but again, the atmosphere is weird though, isn't it? Because when you're winning, obviously things are way better, but you actually need the support the most when the team is maybe not doing that well. And look, right now, I say with 10 games to go, important part of the season, we're quarterfinals of European competition, with 10 games out, we're in a Champions League contention. I think people have just got to put their gripes with the team, with the manager to one side, and let's just get behind them and support it for this run-in, because moaning about stuff now is not really doing it.
Yeah, at least we're on target.
I mean, Danny, you would have taken this position now, innit? What, quarterfinals of the Conference League and fourth with 10 games to go?
Yeah, the only thing I said before the season was I wanted a domestic trophy. Because I feel like the club have underestimated how much that means to the fans. I feel like a domestic trophy might not be beneficial financially. It might not hold that much weight to them who aren't that understand of what it is to be in English football. But Chelsea as a club, for me, should be challenging for a domestic trophy every single season. If it's not the Premier League, FA Cup, and if it's not the FA Cup, go win the League Cup. The fact we were like touching distance last year and we've regressed so much and so far away from that point this season, I feel like that was missed. That was a missed opportunity from the team, from the managers, because no matter what you win, that breeds confidence. I feel like Conference League is a must. If we don't win that, it's pretty much embarrassing. And Champions League football for me. If he wins the Conference League, doesn't get Champions League football, I think that's got to be a questionable season and potentially putting his future in jeopardy.
I think we have to do both, basically.
Yeah,
we have to get both. Look, I'm not going to turn my nose up at any trophy. At this point, you're in the competition. Do you want to win every single competition you're in? I'm seeing some people saying that, like, they're not going to be that pleased about winning the Conference League. I'm like, well, look, of course, we don't want to be in this competition, but we're in it. Let's win it. Enjoy the moment for what it is, and then we move on. I mean, I'll never understand people that won't be happy that their teams won a trophy. Obviously, wouldn't ever celebrate a Community Shield or something like that, but like an actual competition, like, surely that's a good thing. I mean, yeah, domestic cups has been disappointing this season. I think we've disrespected those. That's poor, but ultimately, I mean, Lewis, you quite happy with what Maresca's done so far? Because I'm seeing more and more people now discussing the manager, more and more people not really liking him, not convinced by him. What are your thoughts on him and what he's doing so far?
Yeah, I mean, we're still in the top 4. Obviously, our form for this year hasn't been good enough, but we pulled things back over the last couple games. I think it's 5 clean sheets at home in a row now.
Well, 3 clean sheets in a row at home now. Last 3 games.
That's it. No, 2 goals conceded in 5.
Yeah.
That's what it was. But even both of those goals, like, really think about it, wasn't anything structurally. Sanchez being an idiot against Wolves, who weren't even good at corners in that game, and Colwell just passed it straight to Jared Bowen. It's all mistakes. So when I really think about it, like, not been that bad. Our problem is just like we got bozos everywhere. That's been our problem all season. Errors left, right, and centre leading to goals. If we could get that part of our game out, we probably would be looking higher than 4th. We'd be looking at 2nd. But I think that's been our bigger problem so far, and like that's another reason why the form looks as bad. I don't think it would be as bad over the last 10 games, but yeah, I think Maresca's been okay for this season. I think that's not been our biggest problem. It's always been the recruitment.
Yeah, no, bro, I hear that. I mean, I actually think, given his lack of experience, given how difficult this job is, given the environment, the structure, the hierarchy and stuff, I actually think he's done a pretty good job. Look, of course, there's things he can do better, but you expect a manager with 1 season of senior football managerial experience to make mistakes. This is a tough environment to manage in, and yeah, sometimes the style of play is boring. Yeah, the results haven't been good enough in certain places, but every Chelsea fan would have taken the position we're in right now. Obviously, the domestic cups are definitely a downer on the season, but on the whole, Dan, obviously it's going to depend on what we finish up with and where we finish, but he's obviously done enough to warrant another season.
I would say at the moment, yes. I think we need to see how it finishes. If he does fail to win the trophy in the Conference League or fails to get Champions League football, then I think that becomes questionable. But I think at the moment he's done okay. I said before the season, and you kind of get lost a bit in the sense of the emotion and everything, but I said it'll probably be a rollercoaster season and we need to be somewhere in the top 5, and I'll take it as long as there's a trophy to go with it or 2. But I think he's okay. I find it frustrating, with how the football's been at the moment, but I try and remind myself that when the form is as bad as it was, results are way more important than the performance. And getting 3 points, getting it on the board, getting clean sheets on the board, rebuilding again. Because I think the youngsters and the young kids, their experience, they probably lost confidence over that period of like poor performances, no wins. What were we like? 2 wins in 10, 12 at one point? Yeah. It was awful. They've got to kind of go again, start again. I mean, Maresca's been here before. He did it last season at Leicester, so he probably knows exactly the message to portray to get them back on side. And hopefully it's a bump in the road. And then the sort of good football that we had earlier on in the season makes a return before the end of the season. But we've got a really tough run in coming. And I think we've got to see how Maresca rides that one out.
Yeah, that takes us nicely, obviously, onto the Arsenal game. It's the start of a difficult run in. Last game before the break. We are heading into it with 4 wins in a row in all competitions. We haven't won a game away from home against a big side. I mean, I'm not counting Tottenham, against an Arsenal, a
Same.
Liverpool, a Man City, or a Man United. We haven't won away from home against one of those teams since August 2021. So the summer after we won the Champions League, we went to Emirates and Reece James and Lukaku got the goals. That was the last time we beat a big side away from home, outside of, obviously, we don't count
crazy,
Tottenham. And that's why, you know, that we're in Champions League positions now. It's so tight. Those positions are going to chop and change the whole way. But we've got to do something we haven't done for years. We've probably got to beat not one, but maybe two good sides away from home. And that's not easy for us. I mean, this Arsenal game, how are you feeling about it? Obviously, Wednesday played an evening before us, so they got 24 hours more rest. I don't think that's going to make too much difference. But I mean, Lewis, what are you thinking on this game? Because this is probably our best chance of getting a positive result at the Emirates in quite a while.
Like, there is a lot of potential in this fixture, but it's about us also just being intelligent and not being stupid. And we know we've got a bozo moment in us, but Arsenal aren't in good form. They've got basically no forwards. They're not even scoring from set pieces anymore, which I would be real. Enter Chelsea and all that, but there's a chance. There's a real chance here, because like Arsenal haven't been the same Arsenal from like the last couple seasons. Even defensively, they've not really been the same, and I feel like they can be got at a little bit. It's just like minimize our errors, because like, I'd expect us to dominate on the ball. I expect Arsenal to be more defensively minded and try and hit us on the break. But with Fofana, like, we should be okay with that, and I'd expect Lavia to be starting for periods in this game too. Quietly confident. I won't front. Quietly confident, but it's only quietly because I know what we're capable of. We're capable of not taking advantage of this at all and still coming out of that game with nothing. So, I don't know. It's a chance for them to make a serious statement and to take a lot of pressure off their backs, because the first win against Arsenal since 2021, that'll give you a lot more room for error. But will we take advantage? I don't know, man.
This is the big thing. It's a chance to go. We're 6 points behind them now. It'll be a chance to go 3 points behind. I mean, Man City played Brighton. One of those two teams are dropping points. I mean, Forest are playing Ipswich, so that's not really good. That's not really helping us. But this is a big opportunity. I mean, there's some interesting selection dilemmas as well. We saw, I mean, again, we're talking about goalkeepers. Sick of talking about goalkeepers. But Jorgensen was in goal last night. Now, that to me was worrying in the fact that I think that Sanchez is going to be in goal on Sunday. However, maybe he didn't want to have Jorgensen 3 games out of the side and then back in for Arsenal. But I mean, Dan, the keeping situation, have you got the same sort of horrible feeling as me that Sanchez has somehow wormed his way back to number 1 already?
Yeah, I think Sanchez is the preference for Maresca.
Oh, better not.
I do. Honestly, do you know what it is? I think on the ball, I think Sanchez is so much quicker in decision making. I was watching Jorgensen.
Also shit decisions.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I completely agree. He's risky. He makes bozo decisions constantly. But I think Maresca likes his instinctiveness. And I was watching Jorgensen. It's like it's too many touches before he knows what to do with the ball. And I feel like Maresca doesn't want that. And I feel like he likes what Sanchez is doing. And I think Ben Roberts is coming into play here again and again and again with this player constantly seeming to find his way back into the team. Even after last year with Petrovic, I thought we'd never see Sanchez again. And then he found his way into the team. And then again now he's been dropped, and Jorgensen's made one howler and probably a poor performance against Brighton. And he's found himself probably second choice again. So I don't know. I'm not going to be surprised either way. If Sanchez is in goal, he's in goal. If Jorgensen's in goal, I don't think either are good enough, put it that way.
No, neither of them are good enough, but it kind of just makes a mockery of what's going on. You know, you make a change in goal, and then what? You then switch your number 1 back, 4 or 5 games later? I mean, what are we doing here? But I mean, there's not really much else we can do. But I mean, in terms of other decisions, Lewis, obviously Fofana probably comes in at centre-back.
Yep.
Reece James, you'd imagine, would play at right-back. I mean, the team does pretty much pick itself. Are you confident that with the players that are going to go out on the pitch that we have got enough? I mean, who are you looking for to cause damage? Because, I mean, again, Sancho, another poorish performance last night. Would you be tempted to go Tyreek George over Sancho? I know we've spoken about this before, but can we afford to continue with Sancho on the form that he's on?
Just indifferent, I'll be so real. Because Sancho's form hasn't been good enough. I won't defend it, but I just don't really know if Tyreek George is going to give me anything in that role too. So, I mean, a Tyreek George goal at the Emirates would be amazing. Don't get twisted, but
I don't know. I mean, what would you? Obviously, we'll probably run Neto through the middle.
Yeah.
You imagine that
Palmer back in the 10,
Palmer.
I'd assume.
Do you play Nkunku wide? I mean, that Nkunku...
Actually, I wouldn't mind Sancho on the right again still. I want to see him and Palmer combine on the right side.
That Nkunku cameo last night was...
Now, if you're going to tell me Nkunku for George, now I could hear George starting over him a bit. I could hear that.
But that's what we have to look. If Sancho plays right and Neto's down the middle, if it's George or Nkunku on one side, then you probably... I mean, it's mad to be having this conversation after the sort of the hope that we had around Nkunku, that we're now at a point where we'd actually rather start Tyreek George over him.
Nkunku's been so disappointing. Like, don't get me wrong, I know he's not played in the position he wants to play in, but the fact that I feel like he downs tools every time he's not in that position is so concerning for me. I think work rate's been poor. I think the way he's applied himself to the games, it's just been poor. I've been so disappointed with him for the hope that we had, and the evidence that's there from previous seasons in his career. I feel like he's got nowhere near it.
He hasn't. I mean, remember the briefings last year, that Chelsea are hopeful that Nkunku's return is going to transform the season. And
I knew it was a red flag anyway. There's no way Nkunku's taking me from 10th to 2nd. Like, please, get in the bin.
Yeah, no, it's got to go down as probably one of the most disappointing signings in recent times for Chelsea in terms of expectation to what we've actually got. I know the injury obviously didn't help him right at the start, but the guy's just done nothing. He's really, obviously he scored goals in the Conference League final, but he weren't signed to do that. But yeah, I'm just so disappointed because he's such a good player, but it's weird how we can't seem to get any signings from the Bundesliga, right? But then look at a Man City, for example. Marmoush looks good. Vardiol from the Bundesliga. De Bruyne from the Bundesliga. I think they signed Gundogan from the Bundesliga. Haaland as well. Like they've had pretty much 100% hit rate from the Bundesliga. You look at us, Havertz, no. Werner, no. Nkunku, no. And this is
recruitment. That's what that is.
And you look at that, and that's that's well over 150 million quid of signings from the Bundesliga, which have all been crap.
Sancho, technically from the Bundesliga, off the back of last season.
He's from United. But
United spent 70 mil, to be fair.
Yeah, and they're still paying for him. But I mean, midfield's going to be key in this game. I mean, you've probably got Enzo and Caicedo up against Rice, Partey, Odegaard. I mean, one thing that's interesting, do you think he'll be tempted to play Reece James in there? I know, Lewis, you mentioned about Lavia. I wouldn't be surprised if Lavia went in, but given how careful we've been with managing players' minutes, especially James, especially Lavia, I mean, Dan, would you be surprised if he started?
Yeah,
given he's not played for 2 months.
I would be surprised, actually. I don't know how much... I think he sees Reece as a midfielder, but I don't know how much he trusts him yet to go and deploy him in the biggest games in that role. I'm just not sure.
Now we've got Lavia back. We don't need to anyway.
But do you think he'd chuck Lavia straight in at Arsenal away after 2 months of not playing, given how injury prone he's been?
Yeah.
Anfield.
I was
going
to say
him in
that.
at Anfield, yeah.
The only problem with Anfield was he did him and Reece at the same time and then had to make 2 subs at half time. Which was
just after second half,
just after the 60th minute or something. And then that actually killed our momentum in that game. So yeah, I feel like if it's just him and then he feels like he can bring Reece on at some moment in that game to manage Lavia's minutes and manage Reece at the same time, I'd probably take it.
Do you know what I think the interesting thing is, right? Is obviously Gusto's not going to play.
Yeah.
If Lavia's not fit, right, or not fit enough to start, do you think we could see Chalobah at right back and he puts James in midfield?
Nah, I think it'll be the same defence as Leicester with Fofana.
You don't think James plays in midfield? Don't think James plays at the back then?
No, because I think he wants to invert Cucurella.
Sure,
so that
but
then he'll
Wes,
have
but then
Wes, Tosin, Levi.
So we're not playing James at all in this thing from the start.
I don't know if he'll start. I'm not sure. Maybe, but I'm not sold because I don't think James, arguably, if he's going in at midfield, is good enough over the 3 midfielders to be starting.
No, probably not. And
I don't think he's better at Lavia at his job.
No,
he's not in better form than Enzo, and I don't think he's going to
play right centre back, and then if Lavia comes off, he goes into midfield.
Yeah.
I could see James playing a 90.
James, I think.
I think he's done it against Villa.
Yeah,
James against Villa.
Yeah, James will start. I'd be surprised if he didn't, considering he literally played 10, 15 minutes last night. I'd be very surprised. I'd expect him at right back though. For me personally, I think you see James at right back.
What? No Tosin?
No.
Right. Okay.
Fofana and Colwell, Cucurella, Enzo Caicedo, and then whatever you want in front. I mean, look, we could be wrong. Maresca's surprised us before with certain selections. I mean, Reece James is normally a shoo-in in the team, but it's kind of goes to show how things are going at the moment. That actually, there's no guarantee that he that he does start. But I'd be very surprised if he didn't, particularly of a game of this magnitude. And
Well, who's he going to be up against if he plays? Kieran Tierney?
no, it'd probably be Martinelli's back in now.
Martinelli.
Martinelli,
See,
Trossard,
I feel like
and
Martinelli
Ranieri
will
probably
burn
the front
Reece
three.
at this moment in time. I feel like Reece in recovery is just not a strength at the moment. I don't know. What do you think, Lewis? Do you think he's been all right?
We haven't really seen him do much because he's coming off the midfield, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I
When did
don't
he
know.
last
But
play at right back for us?
A while ago.
I don't.
Because he played in midfield against Villa, didn't he?
United maybe because we switched wings with him. He did one half on the left, one half on the right, or maybe Anfield from a starting position.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Look, we've got the players that can cause damage, you know. We will create chances against Arsenal, but again, it's as we always say, is can we take the chances, and also can we not make any mistakes at the back? That's
What about Reece, touchline winger? Would you say that? Do you think that could be an option? Like take Madueke's sort of role?
Too much running for him.
Too much
it
running
could be
right now.
it could be too much running, but I mean, but then again, who'd you play at right back? You probably have to play.
I think Fofana could do.
You could play
You know how he
Fofana at
played
right back?
against Leicester?
Sure, but I mean, you look at that, right? And look, Fofana at right back against Leicester is one thing, but then against Arsenal, remember when he played right back against West Ham?
Yeah,
he
got done by someone
yeah.
too many
He
times.
did get done against the bigger teams. I don't think you can get away with playing a centre back at right back. I mean, I'd almost say that probably Chalobah would do a better job at right back than Fofana potentially. I know that might sound a bit mad, but I think maybe he could. But then I don't know. Reece in a wide position is a possibility. You know, I wouldn't. I mean, look, it's not something that's been tested out, but it's not something that I would think if I saw it, I'd be like, what the fuck's he doing there?
Yeah,
You know,
I feel like he's a goal threat, isn't he? So
yeah,
it's
he's
worth
good
getting
in the
him on pitch
final third.
somewhere.
And you look at Alcaceres now a threat in the opposition box, and how much, you know, arguably he's more of an attacking threat than a lot of our attacking players right now, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, Lewis, you want to see Fofana back in the middle? Would you? I mean, I know Tosin's played the last
Immediately.
few games; he's done all right, but you'd have no hesitations in bumping, tossing to the bench and Colwell Fofana.
Immediately. It's part of the reason why I've been so poor defensively ever since he's gone off. Like, he's the only one with the recovery pace that we have to play high up and still be able to come back on transition. So, yeah, straight back into the starting lineup.
At centre back instead of Tosin.
Yeah, straight. I'd rather, like, put Badia Shield and drop Colwell, if anything, but here we are.
Yeah, I think Fofana is absolutely key to Maresca getting results with the way he plays. My biggest issue is with the whole system is where Cole Palmer's being deployed right now. That's the biggest issue. I feel like Cole Palmer is playing most of his game in that left half space, and I feel like that limits his game massively.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, he's going to play. Look, the form will come back at some point, but yeah, it's a little bit concerning. Like, because he's getting opportunities, but I think, like, I just look at his finishing compared to what it was earlier in the season. It's kind of completely deserted him. But I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier. I think he's probably trying too hard, and you see players do this all the time when they're in a bad run of form. You're overthinking things. You're trying too hard, and that arguably actually makes things worse. Maybe he just needs to. I mean, I don't want to tell him what to do because I don't really know. But like, maybe he just needs to relax a little bit and just not force it so much. But I'm going to tell you what, Palmer returning to form at the Emirates with a goal wouldn't go amiss.
Unreal.
We'd be keen for that. Obviously, this is the last game before the break. Really important that we get a positive result because I know we're 4 wins in a row now, but a loss to Arsenal at the Emirates, that would almost kind of leave us feeling a bit deflated and possibly result dependent outside the Champions League spaces heading into the break. So we all want to win, but I mean, Dan, would you say this is really important we just don't lose this game?
I'll take a 0-0 draw. I'm not even lying. I'd take a 0-0 draw. I don't want that to be the result. I want to win. If we can beat Arsenal, I think that gives us unbelievable confidence. Have a rest over the break that I think is well needed. Have some injured players return, and then go into that really tough run where we've got Spurs. Then we've got a couple of teams that are, I mean, Ipswich, Brentford. They're in there, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then we got a huge test to the end of the season. That win against Arsenal would give these players unbelievable confidence. So I'd rather the win, but I'll take a 0-0 draw. Make sure we don't lose that.
Yeah.
I don't want anything like last season.
Oh no,
That was embarrassing.
I don't think we'll get anything like that. I mean, that could be famous last words, but I mean, if we turn up and we get rolled over like 2-3-0, yeah, it kind of leaves a big question mark over the fact. Like, I mean, Lewis, would you be if we do get turned over at the Emirates on Sunday, right? There's legitimate concerns that Chelsea haven't got what it takes to win big games away from home.
Yep. I'll be real. I'm not taking a draw unless we come out of it, and then I've got to look at the game. Because for me, I'm sick of not winning at these away grounds. I don't care about Tottenham. Tottenham's our second home. I don't give a damn like that. This Arsenal game is like our best opportunity to get a win against them in years. Like, if we can't take advantage of it, boy, if we get turned over, like slapped, when they have 2 forwards that can play this game, nah. Sorry, not take. I need 3 points and nothing less.
Yeah, no, I hear it. I mean, look, again, depending on the circumstances of the game, as long as we don't lose, I would be happy with that. But yeah, we got to be looking to try and win this game because we can't carry on just being a team that just don't win away at big grounds. You know, went to Old Trafford, we should have won there. We completely flopped the performance. Man City, we should have won there. Completely bottled the performance. Liverpool, okay, we lost, but we actually played reasonably well. Yeah. Emirates, we've got to do something. I mean, Spurs doesn't forget Spurs because we always did a business there.
Our running's not great either. So
no,
it's like
Newcastle away, Forest away,
can.
United at home, Liverpool home. Yeah, it's tricky, but I mean, yeah, guys, we're going to round it out there. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below about score prediction, the signing of Giovani Quenda. And yeah, final game before the international break. Let's hope we can finish it in a Champions League space. But yeah, guys, we'll catch you again another one soon. Up the Chelsea.